Hey everybody, it's Eric from epautos.com, your libertarian car guy. Wanted to show you something interesting about the 2019 Dodge Ram, which is all new, as some of you truck people already know. But the particularly new thing that I wanted to show you is this. Have a look at this odd looking sucker here on top of the 5.7 liter Hemi that you can still get in this thing, thank God. And you can also still get the 3.6 V6, which is standard. And my lead-in will make sense in a minute. You may have read or heard about what some of the other car companies are doing to deal with all of the federal fatwaing and ukase that's being issued with regard to fuel efficiency. They keep decreeing that vehicles should get ever higher mileage. And of course, they're also threatening to regulate carbon dioxide as an emission. Carbon dioxide's an inert gas. It has nothing to do with air quality. Doesn't make it hard to breathe. If you buy into the climate change religion, well, that's a whole nother thing, which I'll get into in a separate rant. At any rate, the solution that some of the other car companies have come up with to deal with these things is to downsize their engines and to even get rid of V8 engines. For example, in the Ford Expedition, you can't get a V8 anymore. It's a big, huge, full-size SUV, and it comes with a twin-turbo V6. You can still get a V8 in the F-150 that the Expedition's based on, but it's actually the mid-tier engine. Ford is hard pushing the 2.7 turbo V6 and the 3.5 turbo V6. They've also announced that for 2019 the F-Truck is going to have a 4-cylinder hybrid configuration, and General Motors is putting a 4-cylinder turbo engine as well into its 1500 series Silverado. And again, the only reason for this, it's not being demanded by the market. Buyers aren't clamoring for little tiny turbo engines in big vehicles. The only reason this stuff is being done is a sort of a desperation tactic to deal with these federal fuel economy edicts and also the carbon footprint stuff. The smaller engine can do better on the government's testing protocols. Even though out in the real world, if you check what the actual mileage of those things is, it winds up being a wash. It's certainly not much better than what you'd get with the bigger engine, V8 engine, for example, chiefly because that little engine, in order to make any power, or rather to make up for power, has to be on boost most of the time. And so when it's on boost, it's effectively a larger engine. The only time it gets good gas mileage, and I put that in air quotes, is when it's not on boost, which means when basically you're just sitting there not using the vehicle. Anyway, back to this. This thing here is the solution that Fiat Chrysler has come up with. And bear with me a minute, that bears some explanation too. Yeah, this is a Ram truck. It used to be the Dodge Ram truck, but Fiat, which owns Chrysler, which owns Dodge, spun off the Ram nameplate to its own separate trucks-only operation, and I think that that's a prelude to getting rid of Dodge, frankly. I hope I'm wrong about that, but I think that that's the reason that Fiat put Ram into its own little box and left Dodge kind of over there selling cars and not trucks. At any rate, their solution, they want to keep the bigger engines, including the 3.6 V6 and the 5.7 Hemi V8, by going with what they call a mild hybrid e-torque system. And what this thing here is a motor generator system that replaces the alternator and gins up a 48-volt current that is used to provide electrical power for a lot of things, including the auto stop start system that a lot of vehicles, including these vehicles, this truck comes with, which shuts the engine off when you come up to a light or you're just sitting in traffic. And the problem with that has been that there's this kind of paint can shaker surge when the engine kicks back on. A lot of people don't like it. I don't like it. Well, they came up with this idea, this super high torque motor generator thing, and it operates the auto start stop and provides near instantaneous restarts when the engine stops. And of course, it also serves to boost the engine power a little bit under certain conditions. But the chief reason that it's here is to allow Fiat Chrysler / Dodge / Ram to continue to put these larger engines in the large vehicles where they're appropriate. A big truck like this needs to have at least a V6 engine and probably a V8 engine. Most people who buy trucks buy them because they expect the truck to be able not just to move, but also to be able to pull and haul, and it's much harder to do that with a tiny turbo 4 or even a tiny turbo V6. You can do it, but the engine's going to work harder, and it's going to be more complicated, and it's going to be more expensive. Now, that brings me to my objection to this thing. Just like a turbo, you've got additional complexity and cost. God only knows what this thing is going to cost you if it ever craps out on you, and all of its related systems. I wouldn't even want to begin to guess what it would cost to go down to Napa and get a new motor generator thingamajig. Anyhow, it's, on the one hand, it's you got to take your hat off to the talent and the genius of the engineers who come up with solutions to deal with all of the stuff that they're having to deal with that's coming out of Washington. On the other hand, I'm probably the only car journalist left who's still raising his hand and questioning why the hell the government has any business decreeing things like fuel efficiency. I know right now there are a lot of snowflakes getting all angry and stomping their hooves at me, but look, I'm buying the vehicle. If I want a big vehicle and I pay for it with my money, yeah, it's my money. It's not the government's money. If I buy the truck or whatever the vehicle is, I paid for it. And presumably I did so understanding that it's going to use a certain amount of gas, and I'm willing to pay for it. And more to the point, I am paying for it. I'm the one who's filling the tank with the money that I earn, so really it's none of the government's business at all what the fuel efficiency of vehicles is. And there's this idiotic argument that if the government didn't mandate fuel economy, then the evil car industry would build nothing but gas guzzlers. And that's the most idiotic thing I can think of, and it makes my teeth ache. If there were market demand for nothing but high-efficiency vehicles, well, the car companies would build them because that's what people want. That's where the profit is. The reason that they build these big trucks is because, ta-da, a lot of people like big trucks, like powerful vehicles. That's what they want. Of course, this naturally enrages the snowflakes in the government, which likes to cock-block what people want, and therefore imposes these fatwas, as I style them, these mandates that the car companies then have to comply with in order to continue to sell the kinds of vehicles that people actually want, as opposed to what the government thinks they ought to want. Anyway, I'm going to have a rant about that up on the site shortly, probably later today. And I should have the full-length review of this Ram truck up shortly as well. So thanks for viewing, and we'll catch up with you again soon.